Okay, I'm going to do the history of my blog is on History of Autism Part 4. After this, I'll be taking a break of History of Autism. I'll just be putting videos of how I feel with autism. Okay, History of Autism Part 4. With autism, it's a spectrum in history. It was discovered by Dr. Asperger's in Germany during the late 1920s, early 1930s in Germany, and he spoke about it publicly, not knowing what it really is. Um, just the diagnosis and learning. Psychiatrists and doctor psychiatrists and other doctors like family doctors, pediatrician doctors were trying to understand it. Then they would do experiments that today they would lose their license. And then during World War II, a lot of people on the spectrum were first to be people with the were first to be, gassed. Um, we were labeled as undesirables, but we're not undesirable. Um, we just want to be accepted. And during the 50s, we were institutionalized, and in the 60s, same thing. And then um, during the 50s, all the way up until 1967, they would perform lobotomies on people on the spectrum, which made it worse because then we didn't have a frontal lobe, and then we were confused and didn't know how to make a decision anymore. But they outlawed it. The Kennedy family did by 1968. It was outlawed around the world. The United Nations said it's inhumane. It's against human rights to perform a lobotomy on someone because of their disability or their condition. During the 70s, people on the spectrum would be taken away from families to a school. Um, what the government would do, they would lie and say, "Oh, it's better for them. You'll see them at all the small breaks, like the fall break of Thanksgiving, the second fall break during Remembrance Day of in November, and then the holiday break in December. You'll get to see them for 3 weeks, sometimes a month, and then the next break, spring break, in the May, and during March, and the second spring break, and during Easter in April, and then summer for 2 months. But for most of the year, they'll be taken away under inhumane acts. By the late 70s, that was starting to become outlawed and it was just against human rights. In 1979 was the Inclusive Education Act, the area of my world and the area where I live in the world, at IPP. But they still were in one classroom, segregated from everyone else. But then during the 80s, they got put into classrooms off and on. And by the 90s, they got put into classrooms. By the 90s, people with autism were getting treated better. Still had to go a long ways. And today we went a long ways, but we still got a long ways to go. Um, they have discovered a lot of things with autism. Our brain's a different operating system than a neurotypical person. We think differently. Our brain is just different. A lot of people with autism see things in patterns. Um, and in the past, they used to think that the reason why someone had autism was because the parents and the mother didn't give enough love, but that is false. Autism is a genetic uh, um, disorder, and it affects families and runs in families. So somewhere in the past, one of my family members a long time ago, my family line, probably had autism, but they didn't know what autism was. They just probably thought they was acting out because that's what they thought. But that's old way of thinking. Today, if you see someone have autism, they cover their ears. We're not acting out. We're finding it's too much. Well, that's the end of the history of autism for this month. For 4 weeks, I did it. I'll take a break from that, and I'll just continue with today things. And yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed this. You are loved by someone. I hope you have a good day, night, evening, and wherever you watch this video, and you're loved.